Hengist here from House of Hengist Comics, and a big welcome back to the channel. Oh, beans, beanettes and beansted, and new subscribers too. Today it is Blitzkrieg, episode 25, from dusk till dawn. First, our weekly news segment. We've got a nice article here from the Arizona Republic. Lowlands hold off Nazis. A tad optimistic, methinks. So let's reacquaint ourselves, because we're in Holland today. We've got Utrecht, Rotterdam and The Hague. These are the key positions. We are going to be slightly south of Rotterdam, near Dordrecht, at a position here. And what we're going to be looking at is a night action. Now, as the Dutch continue to sort of start to reinforce their strong points, so to speak, in their towns, they're mobilizing, they're moving the troops forward. There is bitter fighting in the irrigation ditches and on the canals in the front lines. But some of this is from the rear, because the parachutists have dropped behind their lines. They are taking a lot of prisoners. There's a lot of confusion. And basically, where the German infantry is pushing up, it is basically very successful, because they're being caught in a vice from both sides. And even though they've got some light tanks, and I say Panzerwagens and the Camden Lloyds, they haven't really got any armour. They've only really got a lot of machine guns and infantry, really. Against this, they're basically being thumped mercilessly by Stukas. Their anti-aircraft elements, though, are performing really well. They are shooting down not just the transports, but other aircraft, as the Panzers race to move to reinforce and bring succor to these advanced forces. The German infantry are performing well. They've had a lot of time after Poland to really get their proverbial in order, and they are proving very, very versatile and aggressive troops. The cavalry, they're doing their bit in the north, and we're going to see a train, especially near Milne, the first time. But also, where the Dutch are dug in, they are holding rather tenaciously to their positions, because these are good, strong positions covered by water to their front. The Germans are also under periodic air attack as well by Allied forces. So today, let's look at the Dutch forces themselves. Both forces, ironically, will have 7 platoons, the majority of which will be confident trained like this infantry. However, the Dutch have some fearless Marines. They will be there as well. And as I said, machine guns, and machine guns really is their strength here. They've got 2 platoons of those they've taken, with about 3 infantry and a 4th reserve platoon and the Marines. So a lot of infantry today, guys. And they, I believe, will continue to defend and be quite mobile as well in their counterattacks. German forces today, again, basically confident trained. They haven't really got any other sort of advanced elements with them, because this is a night attack, gentlemen, and it's going to be very confused and quite chaotic, as it was. There'll be bicycle troops. They'll be reliant, I would have thought, on their mortars as well. And these can be the platoon knee mortars as seen here. But they also have a platoon of the 81mm mortars as well. And obviously a platoon of heavy machine guns, a real strength for the German forces. But we won't be seeing any vehicles. This is pure infantry, no trucks, nothing. Okay, let's now look really at the research and the set for this. I was looking around trying to find something that sort of fitted into what we were trying to do, and I found an operation under Group Wertz. It will be at night, which makes it really interesting. That's what I wanted. We'll have possibly moonlight and all sorts of effects in play. There won't be air. It's going to be very difficult on visibility. Visibility windows may become apparent. But let's now really look at what we're trying to do in terms of the mission and the deployment for this. I built the set based on some images and some historical maps. 2 windmills on this with 2 crossings. The Dutch have got to blow this bridge. She is set and charged. So we'll have all sorts of things going on. We've got a villa over here, a very prestigious Dutch house. And we've got obviously some civilians basically making their way through the night. We've got impact damage from Stuka attacks as well. So the set is quite confused with a lot of terrain, a lot of cover. So we'll have double concealment in play. Now, how we decided to do this was with a deck of cards. Each platoon will be numbered according to the card. Blacks basically for Germans, reds for effectively the Dutch. And both players were dealing these out and placing them alternatively. So we've got a real mishmash of forces, ideal for solo wargaming, guys. The ace being the company commander for both sides with a joker. When these cards were actually dealt out, they were all mixed together, so neither player knew whether they were placing German or Dutch troops. And that joker basically allows you to swap one platoon at the end of the deployment phase. It was excellent fun. Well guys, we're now looking at Achtung Panzer and the rules and the writing of this. These are going to be basically out, I would hope, in the summer. It's hard cheese because some won't like them. But a lot of you guys, I think, will. I think you'll find what we're trying to do quite innovative. We've got a lot of micro to macro aspects in it. A lot more challenges for the war gamer, so to speak. So stand by for these. Okay guys, let's get into the battle action, and it's a great one, this game. Basically it's night with effectively 6 definite turns of night and a d6 number of turns to determine dawn. And as we can see, the German deployment is very strong, except there is a heavy machine gun platoon of Dutch in the copse close by. The Dutch also basically have other forces to the north of the table here. We've got a German heavy machine gun platoon isolated and surrounding, a Dutch platoon which is basically on the flank of the Germans as well, and the Germans immediately move straight for the estate house. They're trying to concentrate and go straight for the bridge, as can be seen here. The pioneers, the German pioneers in the woods there. Now this all-round defence fails to dig in, which was disastrous. You can't move or shoot if you fail to dig in within the system. You're in trouble. And basically, as we can see, the Germans have moved up and are racing towards the bridge. However, the Dutch had basically jokered and moved one force, which was the Marines, onto their flank. Now people are dice rolling for visibility and reaction tests, and effectively the Marines start to move straight in, straight for this bridge, and basically start opening fire. They get visibility and start firing. Now some of the Germans are basically caught between sort of heavy machine gun fire from the copse, and also we see the heavy machine gun platoon itself, which is surrounded, take fire from advancing Dutch troops. The scouts go in to try and take out the Dutch heavy machine guns and are repelled, but the German infantry get to that windmill and are very close to the bridge, and as you can see it's beginning to get a little bit lighter. So I've sort of reflected that, and these yellow counters represent those that have been lit up by fire and can therefore be fired. But if they effectively stormtrooper back, or what we call displace, then they won't be lit up. So there's all sorts of problems going on, and the Germans are in trouble with their heavy machine gun platoon, as I've said. The Dutch heavy machine gun platoon repels 2 assaults against it. However, the Dutch then play silent kill, charge in, which prevents any disfire basically from the Germans. They haven't got a joker to stop that card. There's a huge melee whilst they're sending a load more of their Dutch infantry over the railway bridge and sort of trying to race back to the bridge. The Germans basically opened fire, put down a few Dutch Marines, but this melee really basically was all over before it started because of silent kill. The heavy machine gun platoon is basically shot to pieces out in the open. Some great rolls by the Dutch infantry with their rifles. They just took it apart. And this is the problem of being in the open without protection, even at night. Ultimately, the German platoon is smashed basically as it tries to take that bridge by the Dutch Marines. The Germans then basically counterattack vigorously into the wood and drive out the heavy machine guns. As you can see here, the Marines now have taken the bridge, the front of it, but haven't been able to do anything, and they bring those other machine guns up. The rest of the Dutch are starting to move down this way and get behind to where the bridge has to be blown. The Dutch Marines do really well. The heavy machine guns that have fallen back on the wood are beginning to anchor that flank, and the Germans are in a bit of trouble. They can't seem to unpin, and they've got problems as they try and push forwards, because those heavy machine guns are doing well. But then the Germans get an event, and it's their reserves, including 1 medic who can be placed anywhere with the platoon and some mortars. Now the remaining German infantry is captured and basically fails reaction and surrenders basically on that bridge. But the Germans, they haven't given up by far, even though the Dutch are really manoeuvring exceptionally well and really got a very, very good plan. The Germans, although concentrated and it looked good initially, are taking a lot of casualties. They're trying to push forward, but now, we've got problems as the visibility cards start coming in. There's fire coming all over the place. The pioneers have only got rifles. They can't put down enough suppressive fire. But the Germans start to, get themselves together. The Dutch Marines, who've got 2 combat-attached heavy machine guns, they've got, I think it is, 10 heavy machine guns. in play against none now. You know, the Dutchman card is jokered because it was a critical role when they opened fire with those machine guns. And as I said, the Dutch are moving back across, but the Dutch are now beginning to take a few number of casualties. And then we get a stone wall as a feature card. That comes in. That goes right in front of the heavy machine guns who stumbled into this in the night and take full advantage of that card. Again, the joker's gone. It can't be cancelled. And the Germans are sort of in conflab trying to sort out what they can do next. But they start opening fire on the heavy machine guns who are pressing to their rear and start to whittle them down and slow them down. But every turn they're delayed, they just can't get to that bridge. And we know the clock is ticking because dawn will occur at any point. And the Germans are being a little bit cautious, but they do move their scouts up and get into the crater as dawn does, in fact, basically break. Turn 6, a dice is rolled, and it's 3 more turns, which really basically puts the pressure on the Germans to take that bridge. They decide that they're going to make a gallant attempt at it in through daylight. In fact, the Dutch get their reserve, which is another platoon which arrives. So, you know, the Germans are now outnumbered. They're starting to take lots of casualties. They've lost their heavy machine guns on their first platoon when the Dutch basically blow the bridge. That is that, really, as far as the Germans are concerned, because they're caught on the other side, but they press their attack home. Because it's sort of continuation, and they're trying to get through onto that windmill, and they make a very, very aggressive attack, bringing down mortars and all sorts of things, you know, and try and basically put down the Marines who are holding that bridgehead, because even if they can't take it, they need to be on the other side of the bank as the reserve platoon starts to come in on the flank, as we can see here. What we now got is basically the engineers racing across. They've lost a lot of casualties, but they unleash a flamethrower which kills 2 Marine teams, pins the platoon, and the German scouts then race ahead with an SMG, open fire, and effectively wipe out the last of the Marines, with exception of 3 bases who were to try and swim the river, as you can see here. But the heavy machine guns who retreated from the wood have also been pinned by artillery, and now there's a breakthrough assault by the scouts who attack them from the rear behind that wall, go in with SMG again and basically take the position within, wiping out the heavy machine gun platoon. But the Dutch are in a very good position. They've got 2 platoons behind the destroyed bridge, 2 on the flank. The German recon troops are exposed. The pioneers are very depleted by that bridge, huge number of German casualties. I suppose the recon can bring in artillery, and the 2nd platoon in the woods is still pretty strong, but obviously it's been pursued by that solitary heavy machine gun that's peppering the building. Overall, it's a very fine Dutch victory, guys, by 25 victory points. So what can we say in postscript? Well, this was an excellent game, really enjoyable, great for solo players, I think, to play a sort of night action like this. Really enjoyable, but the casualties, gentlemen, very heavy for the Germans, far heavier than we thought. And it's always worth thinking about this, the comradeship, the loss of arms. I mean, these Dutch guys on the road, again, they shouldn't be forgotten. And I think that one of the great things that we're learning about Blitzkrieg is to never forget and to keep commemorating those that gave the greatest sacrifice. Well, there's a lot coming up, guys, so get ready. We've got the British Expeditionary Force. They'll be making appearances on the dial line. We're going to see colonial French forces, including the Spahi troops. We've also got some new characters, some good, some bad. We'll wait and see. Some new project builds which we'll be showcasing too. We're also unearthing some more research information, and we'll be sharing that, including, and most importantly, some diary revelations which are most interesting. So we've got a lot of, I can say, amphetamines, a lot of aggression and adrenaline in this campaign. But for the discerning wargamers out there, ask Craig at Gaming Models for tanks and things like that. And Paul, of course, from WoW Buildings, who produces some quality buildings guys. So it's Blitz Freeze, that's also coming up as a special. As I say, play up and play the war game, guys. And this is, of course, Blitzkrieg, and I hope you'll continue to support, subscribe, and send in your ideas too. So it's over and out from me, and bye for now. Best wishes, until next time.